Whole sports all plays. Yeah. Whole sports all plays. Whole sports all plays. 365, we making up plays. You talking the game, get you to the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. Hitting the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces. Whole sports all plays.
All right. What is up, everyone? It's Wednesday night. We're in the middle of the week. We're almost there to the weekend. Fortunately, there's no football anymore. So, hey, we're going to get through this weekend, and then it's going to be Monday. And maybe we can get through Monday. Maybe we'll get through Monday. We don't know yet. We'll get there when we get there. We'll cross that bridge at a later time. But I think this is the record. We're going on, 4 shows in a row now that we're doing. We're at a month. We're at a month, guys. We're at a freaking month. And of course, as always, I know. Can we really count it a full month? We're going to. I'm going.
We'll take it.
Joined as always, I got, of course, Joe. Joe, how are you tonight?
I'm doing fantastic, sir. The Super Bowl is over. The offseason is here. I cannot wait. And you know what? The Olympics are still going on. So, all in all, not too bad in my neck of the woods.
Fantastic. And then, of course, we always got Aman with us as well. Aman, how are you doing, good sir?
Doing great. This football season might be over, but the offseason's just begun, and everything else is raging on. So, we're looking forward to that.
I agree. So, we'll touch on it. We'll touch on it real quick because, it did just happen a few days ago. The Super Bowl, which to me personally is probably one of the best Super Bowls I've seen in an extremely long time, like years. Like probably Colts versus Saints is probably to me the last personally Super Bowl I was like, wow, this is a really good game. Probably the Ravens and 49ers would be after that. So this to me is I would say top 10 Super Bowls in the last 10 years. So for you guys, Aman, what did you think of the Super Bowl? What would you say is probably your positive and your negative coming out of this game?
It was a lot of fun stuff going on. It was different. The Super Bowl halftime show was different. It was one of the better ones I had seen in a long time. And the game was great, right? We all had Joe Burrow at the end of the game. He had a minute and a half to go. And we all were thinking, man, is he going to pull it off? And, of course, Aaron Donald just did an Aaron Donald thing on back-to-back plays. I thought that was fantastic. It sucks seeing Odell go down earlier in the game, and it sucks seeing Stafford kind of get gimpy and Joe Burrow get gimpy. I got really worried there when he started limping off the field. But all in all, like you said, Tony, it was just a great game. I thought it was back and forth. And, while the scores might have not been raging on after the initial surge in the third quarter, it did feel really good to have this kind of back and forth game.
Yeah. Joe, what do you think?
I absolutely love that so many narratives were destroyed. And new ones were created. It really was a phoenix of a football game where so many things were destroyed to make way for new things. Is Matt Stafford a Hall of Famer? Is OBJ a number one receiver? Is Zach Taylor a good head coach? All new things. The one thing I hated, and this is such a petty thing, why on earth in 2022 are we submitting votes for the MVP before the 2-minute warning? Because keep in mind, at the 2-minute warning, Aaron Donald had not yet completed his, masterpiece, and Joe Burrow had the ball trying to go win the game. So what you're telling me is Cooper Kupp is the MVP, but if Joe Burrow leads the Bengals down the field and wins the Super Bowl, he doesn't get the MVP because, oops, the votes were already submitted? Like, we're not in the 60s. Like, what is going on here?
Yeah, I'd agree. And what was it? It's been... And Joe, I'm probably going to make you feel old when I say this. I don't think there's been a Super Bowl since I've been alive where one team won and another player on the other team was awarded the MVP. I can't think of one in the last 16 years since at least Bears versus Colts that I can remember another player on the other team won the Super Bowl MVP, even though the opposite team won the Super Bowl.
It's only happened one time. I'm trying to think of who that was. That's bugging me now. I'm going to say Dexter Manley, but I don't think that's right. It's only happened one time, so it's definitely not something that happens. But again, really in 2022 we just can't have like a little button that we're pushing and voting and like, come on.
Nope. And yeah, I kind of agree. For me, I was one of those really this whole entire Super Bowl. I was going to be happy whoever won. I like Matt Stafford. I've been a really big Matt Stafford fan. He has all the statistics. He was just with a really crappy organization, did not build around him. And to be honest with you, he's one of the few quarterbacks in a crappy situation. He just kept his mouth shut. He was like, I'm here in Detroit. I'm going to do what I can do. Does it suck? Yes. Would I love to have help? Yes. But am I going to complain? No. I'm going to try to keep pushing and do what I can do with what I've got. And, the fact that I feel like Detroit did do something right. And when they said, hey, Matt, where do you want to go? Doesn't matter where, we'll trade you there. Where do you want to go? And the fact that he was able to go to the Rams, take his team to the Super Bowl and win it is awesome. I'm just hoping the curse for Joe Burrow doesn't happen. I was looking and seeing a list of all the quarterbacks. They finally made a Super Bowl appearance. They lost it, and they've never been back since. And I pray for Joe Burrow that doesn't happen. Not even going to say I don't think it will, because unfortunately he's with Cincinnati. He has an ownership that doesn't really spend a lot of money for him in free agency. And I hope to God they just draft offensive linemen. Like, I keep seeing the meme of like Cincinnati's like mock draft, and it's literally all offensive linemen from everywhere. And I 100% see that happening.
I do want to correct. It wasn't actually me. It was Chuck Howley. It was actually from your Cowboys, Tony. Believe it or not, they lost to the Colts 16-13. And outside linebacker Chuck Howley was given the MVP. He's the only NFL MVP from the Super Bowl on the losing side. So,
see, I'll be honest. When I knew there was one, and I honest to God thought it involved Dallas, but I thought it was like Dallas versus Steelers, because that was like the matchup like every other year.
A lot, yeah.
Like Steelers versus Dallas in the Super Bowl again. It's like, damn it, pick something else. 9 times out of 10, Dallas was on the losing end. Damn it, man, pick somebody else. But anyway, real quick, we do actually have an interesting question here in the comments. Thoughts on the rumors that Deshaun might get traded to the Vikings? So, yeah, the Vikings and who was the other team that is supposed to be like – there's another big – yeah, the Buccaneers. The Buccaneers and the Vikings are supposed to be the two big teams that Deshaun wants to go to if everything in the criminal side, doesn't come to fruition. He would want to go there. I feel like if anybody's going to make a giant push on it, it's Tampa Bay. I mean, Tampa Bay is still kind of built in that win now. They still have a very good roster. You have a wide open division. Atlanta doesn't know what they're doing. Matt Ryan's old. They don't have a running back. Who knows if Calvin Ridley may or may not come back. They have a great tight end. That's it. That's all you got. Carolina is a mess. Matt Rule, how he still has a job, I don't know. He does.
Hey, they got Ben McAdoo. They're safe. They got Ben McAdoo. That's all. Fantashan. There you go.
Ben McAdoo. I just really hope that they would get like Joe Judge or somebody like that. Actually, I still think the Giants would have never fired Dave Gettleman or Joe Judge. He was putting them in the right direction. I feel like Giants made a big mistake with that. Anyway.
Ben McAdoo is Freddie's third favorite coach from his second favorite team, X.
X favorite team. And the Saints are so far over the cap and don't know what they're doing either. So, I mean, really, Tampa Bay is the only team that's even remotely set up to succeed, and they could be a completely average team. You put Deshaun on that team, you'll still have at least Mike Evans, probably not going to have Godwin. Maybe you convince Gronk not to retire, probably not. But, I mean, you still got Cameron Brate and you still got O.J. Howard, so it's not like you're going to be hurting. Still got a very good defense, very young defense. So, I mean, it's possible. To the Vikings, it depends. Does Aaron Rodgers stay in the North or not? That's really your – because if he does, you're just vying for second place. Like every other team in the NFC North does, you're vying for second place. Like if Aaron Rodgers is there, that's what you're going for, as much as I hate to say it.
I want to push back on that a little bit. I actually think the smarter play is to go to the Vikings. Number one is because if you're Houston, you want the draft capital. Right now, I think the Vikings have the number 12 pick in the draft. Tampa Bay is like what, in the late 20s?
27,
So
I think.
yeah, 27. So in that regard, you want to go for that. It's going to be take multiple first, probably. Number two, I actually think the Vikings are more set up for somebody like Deshaun Watson. He plays in nice weather. He played down in Texas. He plays up in a dome. I get Tampa Bay's the same way in that division, but I like the pieces around Minnesota better than I like Tampa Bay because of their cap situation, because their defense. I mean, those guys, Vita Vea, Shaq Barrett, JPP, those guys aren't going to last forever. They cannot carry on like they did 2 seasons ago. And I actually think that with the core that they have in Minnesota, with the Justin Jefferson on a rookie deal, with Dalvin Cook, with some of these pieces around them, that if Deshaun Watson, again, take all the litigation, take all the off the field stuff, we're just talking on the field football. I actually think a better situation for him is in Minnesota. And the reason that Aaron Rodgers has controlled that division is because he's going in a division where the defense is, while they play well at times with Chicago and Minnesota, they've given him struggles. They don't have offenses that can compete. And if you put Deshaun Watson in Minnesota, that is an offense that can compete with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers.
Oh, I mean, I agree because, I mean, Kirk Cousins is 500 against him. I mean, if any team has ever given Aaron Rodgers, for lack of better terms, to be a pain in his ass, it's Minnesota. For whatever reason, it's always Minnesota. So, yeah, I can kind of see it. Amon, what do you think?
I think Tampa would be the way I'd go if I'm Deshaun, because I know how you have to give a lot up to go get him, right? Barring the criminal stuff goes away. If you're Minnesota, you're going to have a new head coach, new situation coming from top to bottom, and then you probably have to give up Dalvin Cook, Kirk Cousins, and then you have to throw in a lot of draft picks, probably some defensive capital. If you're the Bucs, you can go and throw JPP, some of your corners that are coming up on the end of their deals. You sign Carlton Davis back, and you can get back Chris Godwin if he sees that Deshaun Watson's coming to town. I think he's someone who be willing to give up some money to come and win another Super Bowl. So I think, to me, I think more pieces would be around Deshaun Watson in Tampa Bay, and he's played in the South basically all of his career, dating back to college. Even in high school, he played in Georgia, played at Clemson, played in Houston. Just Tampa seems like the perfect fit to me.
Yeah, and kind of to Joe's point, I agree with kind of the nice weather. The crappy part is if he goes to the Vikings, you're going to have to go to Green Bay at some point. You're going to have to go to Chicago at some point. So that's kind of the only bad part. Now, at least with the NFC South, again, more wide open division. Two of your teams have domes. So I mean, you get to go to not the Panthers. You get to go to the Falcons. It's in a dome. And you get to go to the Saints, also in a dome. So, I mean, it's not too terrible. The farthest north you're going to go is Carolina, and like Ahmad said, he played at Clemson. It's not that far from North Carolina, but he's pretty used to that weather. Anyway, moving on. So, we've pretty much we saw this a lot, kind of in the early 90s, almost 2000s, that doping was kind of the big thing to be able to get around, performance enhancing drugs. It was harder to detect, everything like that. Do you think it should be a bigger concern than what it is? Because it kind of is hard to detect initially. Now, it has gotten better as medical science has progressed on. Obviously, we've seen a lot of professional bikers, even in like the Tour de France, do a lot of this. So, I'll start with you, Joe. Do you think it should be a bigger concern than what it is, or do you feel that out of the performing enhancing activities you can do, this is the safest to a point?
I mean, I think part of the reason that we're talking about this is because of what's going on right now in the Olympics with Russia, with the 15-year-old skater. I think it's Kamila Valieva, maybe. There's a whole situation going with that. We know that Russia is actually not competing at the Olympics because of doping, even though they have a whole team under the Russian Olympic Committee. So, it's a farce. I think what we don't want to do here in America is shine a spotlight, because anytime that we do, we find things that we really don't want. We are just as bad as Russia in some aspects. We still don't know the actual stuff that Barry Bonds used. It was a cream that was developed specifically for him and people like him. And we don't fully know what went into that. It is a dirty little secret. And we don't know really what's happening at the younger levels, because we know now with the specialization of sports. Amon, I'm going to invoke your name here. You cover cricket. You cover international cricket. Players young that go into these academies and learn and come up with national teams or professional. We see it in soccer with the EuroLeague and stuff. There is immense pressure to compete at high levels for money, and not even the best of money at times, but money that you can get. So I actually think that we have a huge doping issue here. It's not necessarily to the HGH levels that we see in Russia and a lot of Europe and things of that sort, but I do think it's a real concern here. I absolutely am. And I think professional leagues have done a really poor job of getting this out. I mean, how many years did baseball take? I mean, we see A-Rod, who was, a whole year suspended, and we all knew he was doing it, and we other players, but like, it isn't enough. And like football, who's the last guy that got?
No, I think we lost Joe for a second. Yeah, we did. I do want to say real quick, there's no proof that Peyton Manning did HGH just because his forehead got like twice the size of what it is currently. No proof of that. There's no proof. Same with Barry Bonds. He just got bigger and stronger the older he got. It's fine. It's fine. But Ramon, while Joe's having some technical difficulties, go ahead and give your perspective since you do cover a lot of these international sports because it does seem to be something that happens a little bit more in that. And I guess for someone who, obviously we don't see it as much in, football and basketball, and I don't particularly follow baseball. Do you think it's something that it takes away from the competition of the sport, or do you think it's something that kind of, I guess, adds that little bit of extra for people that, they do have to train harder to do it. But I mean, there are some people that naturally they're able to match what people are having to, give themselves to be able to be competitors.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation, right? Because I think when you talk about just the physical side of it, yeah, right. You're finding ways to get bigger and stronger and play longer. But I think it's just the harm that it can do inside of you. That's scary. And if you start this from a young age, it doesn't really, you see the side effects, right? We've seen things just not go right for people. And that's the real concern here. I think it's less about what you're doing on the field because, again, if it was just physical, everybody in the world would be doing it. If we're just being honest, to get that's just everyone goes to the gym and tries to deadlift 100, as much as they can. Everyone would be trying to use this stuff, but it's what it can do to you inside of you. You can do what inside of you mentally, and just it takes away from that part of you. Yes, your playing days are important, and you should strive to be the best you can be. But your playing days aren't going to last forever. Ask Tom Brady; he thought it was going to last forever. Now he's sitting here at 44, and imagine he's out there doing stuff he shouldn't have been doing. Or ask some of these guys who are retired at 25, 26 years old. Now they don't know what they're doing, and they're a little bit messed up because of the stuff that they put in their bodies that they shouldn't have been putting. I think that's the bigger concern here. Is I think it's less about what it does to you physically, but what it does to your body internally and what it does to your mental state. That is really the concern behind doping.
Yeah, Joe, you're back.
Sorry,
you want to finish your idea that you were with?
Yeah, our internet dropped out. Sorry about that, guys. Where did you catch me at?
Basically, you were talking about the HGH. I interjected and said that there's no proof that Peyton Manning's forehead is a result of HGH. It's just got bigger.
There's a FedEx affidavit that proves that his forehead is due to HGH. No, again, like I don't think the United States has a human growth hormones, things of that sort. Like we've seen, there's a great documentary called Icarus about the steroids and stuff and going on in Russia. But again, like we need to really nip this in the bud at the lower levels of what we're doing. I mean, the thing that went on with the skater in the Olympics is it was basically to improve lung capacity. And that's a lot we've seen in the Tour de France and stuff like this. Like you either have to do it one of two ways. Everything is legal under doctor supervision, or you literally are not allowed to take anything that you cannot buy at Walmart. Like if it is anything more than a multivitamin, you're not allowed to have it because it is absolutely out of control because we don't know. Again, I just caught your tail end of it. Not only physically, but mentally, what happens? I mean, roid rage is a tale as old as time, but like there's worse when you are literally altering parts of your genetics because we don't know what's going on. It's dangerous. And I think that us at the big core four sports in America need to look at the shortcuts that players are taking, and we as fans accept.
Yeah, and Joe, I'll pose the same question to you because I asked Amon. Do you think that doing it in this manner takes away from the overall sports competition, or do you feel that it adds to it?
It takes it away. It absolutely takes it away. What are we told from the youngest of ages? All of us went to kindergarten. Everybody line up on the line, run to that spot. And who was in first place was the fastest kid in school. And they walked around and they said, I'm the fastest kid in school. I'm not the fastest wind dated. I'm not the fastest kid on steroids. I was the fastest kid in school. And I'm sorry, when you inject this stuff, none of us watch the Tour de France anymore. Why? Because we know. We just know. Even if you latch on to somebody on their team or them themselves are going to get busted for doping. And I'm sorry, it just takes it away. It's not enjoyable. And again, which is why NHL, MLB, NBA, and NFL do not want to go down this path. Same as college football, same as all of this stuff.
Yeah, I definitely agree. All right, so speaking of NBA, Aman, I'll start with you. Why do you think the NBA trade deadline works better than what we see in the NFL? I feel like here with the last couple years, we don't really see a whole lot of trades happen at the deadline. If we do, it's like just kind of more role players. It's never big name starter guys. We never see the big in season trade. If trades happen, they usually happen in the off season, before the season starts or right after the season ends, one of the two. Why do you think the NBA's trade system works probably the best out of at least out of the four major sports?
I think it has a lot to do with the players. The players have a lot of power in the NBA. You see that they have a lot of say and a lot of pull, and it feels like compared to the other three that they have the most that are there. And you see more guys in the NBA, more big-time players be asking for a trade. James Harden, back-to-back years, asked for a trade. Whether you love him or you hate him, he's a guy who's always talked about. If you just flip on to any sports channel they're always talking about James Harden. We talk about Kevin Durant, right? Or Russell Westbrook or any of these guys. They are willing to be traded. They want to be traded. In the NFL, when you hear this guy is traded, it feels kind of negative, right? This is in a negative connotation, almost like, oh, well, OBJ got traded from the Giants. It's like, oh, well, what happened? There's something there. But in the NBA, it's just common practice. And I think that's the difference, is just the connotation we wrap around it. I don't know what you can do in the NFL, because I think for it to be better is that bigger name players have to want to be traded, right? You're going to have to want mid-season Russell Wilson saying, look, I want out. Trade me right now. Then they don't usually do that. Or Kyler Murray. Maybe it happens this year, and Kyler Murray is not traded by the offseason or doesn't get his extension and goes to the Cardinals and says, look, I'm out by the deadline. Trade me or I'm not going to play. It's just not something you usually see in the NFL. But in the NBA, you'll see that. You'll see James Harden look like he cannot pick up a basketball in Houston, and then a week later is scoring a triple-double with his first game in Brooklyn. It's something that you see in the NBA, and the power structure seems to be more suited for the players, which allow the trade deadline to feel a little bit more exciting because those big names are there.
Yeah, and I'll say before I hand it over to Joe, I think a lot of it just has to do because the NBA has so many games that they play. Like, I feel like for the NBA, the trade deadline works because it's kind of your second option for a second wind. Like, you could take a team. Okay, say we'll throw in Detroit because I refuse to talk about LA, just because everybody talks about them. Take the Detroit Pistons for example. Say they make like 4 or 5 major blockbuster trades, and Detroit goes from being bottom of the Eastern Conference to now they're vying for, we'll say this, we'll be realistic, we'll say like the 6th or 7th seed. Like, now they have a second win because now you can get another player that makes some type of an impact, that has a major input that can change the game. Whereas, like you said, Aman, I kind of agree. When you trade, okay, are they a problem? Why didn't you get traded or get released early on in the off season? Kind of, have an idea where you want to go. And like I said, a majority of those trades that happen during the midseason, they're just kind of, they're role players. Like maybe it's a backup guard for like a backup wide receiver or something to that extent. So to me, for the NFL, because the NFL, I don't want to say is necessarily smaller, and I don't want to say longer because it's 17 games. Like it's a slower process if you're losing, and it's a slower process if you're winning. I don't really know. I don't know if for the NFL, if they shouldn't just keep the trade open, all year round. Because I mean, think about it. I get it. There kind of needs to be a limit. Because hell, who knows? Cincinnati could be like, all right, we're going to give you like all of our draft capital for like 3 offensive linemen so we don't get smoked by Aaron Donald in a Super Bowl again. Like, yeah, okay, I mean, I get it, but then, since he's going to fall off, and that's going to be their own downfall, and other teams are going to build back up off of this, and we'll actually touch into that in the next topic here in a second. Joe, what do you think? Do you think there's a way for the NFL to improve, or do you think that for the NBA, they figured out a way to make it work? And to be honest, again, I don't watch a lot of baseball, but I know there's like 600 games in a season. Like there's a ridiculous number of games. So I don't know why baseball kind of doesn't do the same thing. And I haven't really ever paid full attention to hockey. I'm trying to work on that, but I've never really paid attention to hockey. So, I mean, for you and your perspective, what do you think?
Well, baseball is 162 games, first of all. So let's put some respect on that right there. But I mean, the reason is because I think the NBA, especially in the last 5 to 10 years, there's only literally a handful. There's maybe 5 guys going into any trade deadline that you say they're not getting traded. Other than that, it is a possibility for anybody in the league to get traded. And I also think that the NBA draft is the draft that we care about the top pick when it's somebody we know, but we don't really care about it. There's only 2 rounds. Most people do not know more than 5 players on average, and that's a high thing. I mean, 5 players. Give me 5 guys from last year. I'm not sure you can right off the top of your head, but and they've had a year in the league. So again, it's interesting in that regard, and also it's the way that these deals are structured. It's a pick 4 years from now. It's a pick 5 years from now. It goes in the back of your mind. You don't think about it. And then when it comes around, you're like, wait a minute. Why do they have 2 picks in the top 5? It's like, oh, from a trade they made 5 years ago. And then now it's coming up to bite them. I mean, we saw that happen it didn't happen at the trade deadline, but we saw between the Celtics and the Nets with, Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce, like all these picks down the line that ended up building the Celtics now. So in that regard, in the NFL, it's also because we don't care about as many players. Like if you have a favorite basketball team, you can probably name their whole team, all 12 guys. You probably can. And in the NFL, if they're trading like a lineman, I mean, last year, Orlando Brown Jr. got traded to the Chiefs. I thought it was a big deal. Most people are like, oh, okay. And it's like, no, that's actually a huge deal. Like, you should care about that. And they don't. So, and again, it's also the way the contracts are structured because of bonuses. The NBA has guaranteed contracts. So, like, it's just straight up money. But, I mean, the NBA does this right because I'm a casual basketball fan and I follow Woj. I mean, let's be honest. Like, he's got all the news. And it's fun, those, like, 48 to 72 hours where you're like, I'm a Pacers fan, so this one kind of hurt me because I'm a Sabonis fan. But like, I'm literally refreshing Twitter trying to find out what's going on, and it's captivating. I mean, somebody brought up in the NFL, should the NFL move the deadline back 1 to 2 weeks? No, actually, if it were up to me, I think a solution would be you can make trades up to your 13th game. After your 13th game, then it's done. So the trade deadline is actually spread across time because of the bye weeks and stuff. So after you've completed your 13th game, you can no longer make a trade.
Yeah, and I would definitely agree with that because, yeah, like you said, Joe, there needs to be kind of a point where it's like, all right, 13 games in, you kind of already know, am I going to the playoffs or not? Do I really need to make a big trade or not? And yeah, I agree. And we'll kind of move this into the next topic as far as the NBA lottery because, well, not the NBA lottery, the NFL draft. Should it go to a lottery? And I was thinking about this when I first saw this topic because, the whole idea of a lot of these drafts and lotteries and everything like that is, the bad teams have to have something to be able to build on. You can't just continue to have, crappy teams all the time, even though it still seems to be the same crappy teams all the time. Like, take Detroit, for example. Detroit has the number 2 pick and the number 32 pick in the first round. And then they have basically the first pick of every following round after that until they finish, unless they trade, et cetera, et cetera. And where are we going to expect the Detroit Lions to be next year? Bottom 10.
Top 5, baby. Top 5.
That's right, top 5 of next year's draft. So, like, and we've seen it with Jacksonville. We've seen it with the Jets. We've seen it with a lot of these teams. It's very rare that you're able to get these teams that they make these draft picks count. Now, I've also heard draft picks, they're kind of like that brand new car that you buy in the showroom floor, right? You get the car, it's got no mileage on it, it's brand new, smells like brand new leather, super nice. The minute you drive it off that lot, you've lost $3,000 just right there. And I feel like draft picks are kind of the same way. We can evaluate somebody up and down, head to toe, night and day in high school, in college. Sometimes it doesn't correlate over to the NFL. It doesn't correlate over well at all. Matt Leinart was supposed to be a phenomenal quarterback, for USC. Didn't pan out in the NFL. Tim Tebow, perfect example. Didn't pan out.
That's our boy, Josh McDaniels.
Name an Alabama quarterback other than Mac Jones that has had any type of recent success in the NFL. Like,
we don't have that much time to be quiet.
I know.
Tua winning 7 straight. Does that count? I don't know.
Right.
Maybe.
So, but then of course you have on the other hand, you have these players that are in the 5th round, like Cooper Kupp. You have the 6th round and Tom Brady, the 4th and Dak Prescott. You have all these players that their draft position doesn't necessarily matter. So Joe, I'll start with you. Do you think the NFL should move more to a lottery system? And do you think that it would make a difference for, say, we'll say like the typical bottom 5 teams like Jacksonville, the Jets, the Lions, and whoever else you want to throw in there?
Tony, I'm so glad you brought this to me because you know what? I'm solutions oriented. And I actually have a solution to this. Yes, absolutely yes. 100 times yes. They should absolutely move to a lottery for the 1st round. The 2nd round through the 7th round goes back to by record. So there you go. The 1st round should absolutely be by lottery. And you know what? If only somebody had figured this out last year, percentages to do this. You know what? I think I have somebody. Let me go get him. Oh, here I am right here. This is the way you do it. You have 2 different lotteries. You have the worst team by record and the 18th team, which is the last team out of the playoffs. They are assigned a percentage of ping pong balls. You can put 1,000 balls into a machine. The number 1 team, so this year would be the the Jacksonville Jaguars. They would have a 13.5% chance to get the number 1 overall pick. The 2nd team would have a 12% chance to get the number 2 pick. The 3rd team would have a 10% chance. So what this allows you to do, and if you go all the way back to 18, it's a 0.5% chance. So this is where it comes to. We saw the Philadelphia Eagles do this, where they tanked their last game. They pulled their quarterback to get a better draft position. Now, did it really end up mattering because they traded? Maybe, maybe not. But this also allows for intrigue because people care about when those envelopes are discovered on NBA draft lottery night. We don't see the ping pong balls coming out. But when you see that team that is out of position, then your mind starts going, oh my God, is there a chance? So let's say the Jacksonville Jaguars end up down in 4th. Now you have a team outside the top 4 who has jumped up. Who is that team? And also, I think we talked about this kind of correlates to the trade. I think you're more willing to trade if you're not sure where you're at, if there's a lottery. And I also think it does improve trades, more 1st-round trades, because if you're a playoff team, you know that, you're not going to be able to go, up so far and all this. But I think the lottery is a good idea because it adds intrigue to the league. Let's admit it. The best the draft ever was all day Saturday and all day Sunday. They've turned it into a TV show. So if you want a TV show, here's a TV show.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd agree for sure. Amon, what do you think?
I don't think it's going to solve any tanking because we saw Philly for like 6 years. Trust the process, and just sit there. Detroit for years, Cleveland when they lost LeBron. So it's not going to stop tanking. But I do agree with Joe. It does add that level of intrigue, right? And it also promotes you to now move off of some picks. Because if I'm say Houston at 3, and I don't know what if I'm gonna have 3 or if I'm gonna have 1, if I'm gonna have 18. I have no idea. And maybe someone comes available. Oh, maybe I want to make another trade, or maybe whatever. You can trade a player to go get another ping pong ball in your favor with that pick. So there's multiple intrigues there. But to me, you could have the regular draft, you could have a lottery. Tanking is going to occur, and nothing will get stopped until you fix the guys making the picks. Until people don't draft Mitch Trubisky number 2 overall, until people don't trade up to draft Tim Tebow or Johnny Manziel or maybe Jordan Love, until the Browns get competent GM status, you're not going to have this thing be solved. Will it add intrigue? Absolutely. But will it solve an issue of tanking? I'm not sure it will.
It won't, but can I give you a little – I'll use this season as a simulation. We've just finished the Super Bowl on February 13th. What if on March 1st we had the lottery show? So now we know who the combine invitees are. March 1st, we know the order of the draft. So now we know where the picks in the first round are at. So now the new league year starts. It adjusts free agency and the way people are signed. It adjusts what trades you make before the draft. Because as you said, Amon, if you're Houston at number 3 and you move up to number 1, all of a sudden you might be open for business. At 3, you were okay taking the player you wanted. But now number 1 overall, hey, everybody call us. We're open for number 1. It totally adjusts free agency and everything, because if you're a team in the 15 to 16 range and all of a sudden you're up to number 9, that adjusts your free agency board. You're going to be available to get players that you didn't think you were going to be able to get. So again, that just adds more level of intrigue to the whole offseason.
Yeah, and I kind of honestly, if I'm a college player, I would almost be a big fan of this too. And I say that because think about it. We'll take actually this year, for example. Trevor Lawrence. Let's see, Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance,
Zach Wilson, Mac Jones.
Zach Wilson, Mac Jones, Justin Fields, right? And what were the first 5 teams? The Jags, the Jets,
the Niners,
the Niners.
The Bengals were a top 5 team. It was Atlanta and then Cincinnati.
Atlanta and Cincinnati. So think about it. If we do this draft lottery, right, and say you're Trevor Lawrence. It's like, okay, out of these teams, who could I potentially go to? I potentially might go to the Jags. I potentially might go to the Jets. There's a chance I could go to the 49ers. I'm going to be in a lot better position with a lot better coach and a lot better weapons. And think about it. What do you think would have been probably more interesting for the NFL and for the playoffs overall if you have Trevor Lawrence and Deebo Samuel? Mm-hmm. Instead of, hey, Trevor Lawrence, Urban Meyer, have fun at the dumpster fire.
And now there's a trade to have at the deadline, too. If you do that, because Jimmy Garoppolo gets a move.
Yeah, Jimmy Garoppolo gets a move. You're moving quarterbacks around. And like Joe said, free agents, because then, maybe more people are like, oh crap. The number 1 overall pick, this, supposed to be generational talent, and Trevor Lawrence is now in San Francisco. I want to go play with this kid. They have a young future there. I want to be a part of this type thing. So, I mean, that to me is what I would do. I think it would kind of help save some of these quarterbacks' careers if doing that. Now who knows? Maybe Zach Wilson still goes to the Jets. Maybe he's still a reach. I don't know. I think he is, but that's just me. I mean, Mike White is obviously the GOAT for the Jets, but that's
I mean, I'll use a team here real quick. We talked about earlier. Let's say Minnesota. Minnesota is the number 12 team in the draft right now. If Minnesota moves up to 2, they have Kirk Cousins. Now the question is, do they go and do they draft a quarterback of the future? Because at 12, it's a little bit easier to take that guy. Do you take him at 2? Now all of a sudden, are you looking for a team to trade up and do that? Are you looking at another position? Again, it throws everything into a flux. All you're doing is, what this is to me, this is like taking a really good ice cream sundae and dipping it in chocolate. You're not taking anything away from the NFL draft, from the NFL as a whole. All you're doing is adding something good to it.
You're just deep frying it. It's fine. Deep frying.
That's fine.
Makes it better. And pretty much our last topic, and it's kind of, I don't think it's the same for the NBA as it is for the NFL. Do you guys think that salary caps are better for the players or for the owners? Ahmad, I'm going to start with you.
So on the surface, I think the obvious answer is the owners. But I was kind of thinking about it, and I was like, these guys are all businessmen. And if they could just go, and you're telling me they just get to spend money, and you tell me that Jerry Jones wouldn't pay everybody the Patrick Mahomes contract to come play for the Dallas Cowboys. And now you got guys who might not have made a name for themselves because they have to fight for that roster spot, and now they get booted off because of the fact that you're paying everybody to come to one team. Yeah, I think the salary cap, I think it is good for the players. And again, yeah, you don't get the huge money if you're Patrick Mahomes. Yeah, you don't, instead of a $500 million, instead of a $1 billion contract, you get a $500 million contract. I'm sorry. My bad, buddy. But, if you're a guy like Jacoby Myers, who was an undrafted free agent and now has an opportunity to get on the field, that's why, because the Patriots couldn't go and give Brady in his final year everything that he needed at wide receiver. If you're a guy like Cyril Grayson, who was a track star, now you get to be on a team like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and catch passes from Tom Brady. Even guys like Cedric Wilson, who are better known coming out of college, still wouldn't have that same opportunity. And Van Jefferson, even on the Rams this year, who knew of Van Jefferson before this? Cooper Kupp coming into this season. So I think that while on the surface it might be the owners is the obvious answer, I think in the end it does save a lot of these maybe lower echelon players or guys who don't come in with as much prestige because of the fact that they get a better opportunity.
Joe, what do you think?
Well, I think we need to divide this, kind of like you mentioned, Tony, into two different things. Let's talk about the NFL and let's talk about the NBA. Let's talk about the NFL first. We have a salary cap floor. It's so much money that you have to spend, which is a good thing. You always have to have a minimum because if not, people like Dan Snyder, people like Shad Khan, people like that are going to try and, just get the very least they can. Yeah, that's just what they're going to do.
Yeah.
To me personally, I would love to see the NFL uncapped. We saw what it did for 1 year, and unfortunately, Dallas and Washington were penalized because even though there was no rule against it, they kind of went against the brotherhood of the NFL. The reason that they don't do it in the NFL is one simple reason: Gerald Wayne Jones. Because absolutely, like you said, Amon, it's Jerry literally just calling every free agent, every single free agent. He's calling up and he's saying, 10 years, $50 million. Yes, it's not a whole lot, but it's whatever, $500 million, $1 billion, whatever it is. I'm going to pay 10 years, $50 million for the best kicker in the league. I'm going to pay 10 years, $50 million for the best punter in the league. Like, he's not going to care. I actually think it's interesting because we do see this in the NBA, which I'll get to in a second. But cash poor teams like the Raiders, yes, John, it would hurt small market teams. But here's where this benefits the NFL. Those small market owners who don't want to spend any money will no longer be owners dragging down the league. They're going to be forced to sell to rich businessmen who want to spend the money, who want to promote the league, who want to have really good teams because they're not going to be rewarded in the brand new Joe McDonnell lottery draft. I'm going to trademark it, but that you can't be Jacksonville and not spend a lot of money, have a ton of cap space, and get top 5 picks all the time. Like, who wants to see that? Don't you want to see every team come from nowhere? Like Cincinnati fans, we have one in the group who was very adamant that they were going to win, but when you have a team that has been bad for so long and they're good, it makes people around you better. And I want every team. I don't want Dallas to win. Don't get me wrong. I don't want Dallas to win, but I want every single team to have the opportunity. So I think in some ways the salary cap is a bad thing for the owners because it should force you to be because Amon, you said it, they're businessmen. Who wants to run the 20th best paper company? Who wants to run the 20th best software company? Nobody does. You want to be number one. And if you're not having that mindset in the world's richest league, what are we doing here?
Yep.
Yeah. First off, Joe, we do want Dallas to win.
Oh,
we do.
Absolutely not.
This is for that Patriots losing 5 Super Bowls comment. I know what this is for. Exactly what this is for. But to me, I think I kind of agree with Amon. It helps the players more because, think about it. Jerry Jones is the reason why there's a cap. Hashtag 90s because Jerry Jones is like, I want this one, I want this one, I want this one, I want Super Bowls, damn it, I'll trade my soul for one. Right. We know what Jerry's doing. Jerry's sacrificing newborns to get Super Bowls. So, for the players though, it's a benefit, and I say that because we look at teams when this happens. We'll take the 2012 Baltimore Ravens. They won a Super Bowl. They lost Ray Lewis. They lost Ed Reed. What did they do? They paid Joe Flacco a ton of money. And then what happened for a couple of years? Baltimore was mediocre. They fell off. What has happened so far? Because Kansas City, paid Patrick Mahomes a crap ton of money. What's going to happen? Tyreek's getting older. Tyreek is probably going to want one more big contract before he goes. Kelsey's probably going to want one big contract, before he goes. That's 3 of your players, and you're going to potentially lose them. New Orleans, perfect example. You're still paying Drew Brees. He's gone. You're paying Taysom Hill a crap ton of money to be a backup. Terrible idea. We're seeing bad deals all the time. Green Bay, for example. I didn't want to go into that because that's what I
do. It.
Because
the troll.
The biggest cap turd ever is Aaron freaking Rodgers because he wants to make 43% of your freaking cap and then get mad because you don't have first round talent players taking $500,000 freaking salaries. I don't know why I can't win. I don't know why I can't win. Yeah, because you want all the damn money, but you don't want to pay your players. To me, the cap is perfect for kind of like what Tom Brady did. I'm not going to take as much money so we can have the cap to bring in other players that want to win and get paid both. Or you can pull name a random player on the Jacksonville Jaguars that goes there in free agency. I'm going to go to Jacksonville.
Marvin Jones, yeah.
And Marvin Jones, actually the perfect person, Ndamukong Suh, went to Miami, 7-year deal, $100 million to a bottom franchise. And what did you get out of it?
Albert Hainsworth to Washington.
Exactly. If you want to go get paid the most money, by all means. Again, this is a temporary thing. You're not going to do this forever. We've seen players get their careers cut short. Go make as much money as you can. But I'm looking at players, Aaron Rodgers, don't sit here and tell me you want to win championships and then sit here and tell me I want to make $70 million. I'm confused. Why can't you go get me help? Don't do that. Don't do that.
But part of this isn't and I do agree with you guys. In the current structure that it's set up, it is the players. But the problem is there's so much funny money. The money a player makes is not the same as their cap hit. That's not the same in the NBA. Their salary is the cap hit. They have this. So what the NFL wants to do in this regard is if they want to change it and they want to have an open cap, then it's money. You pay somebody a $3 million salary, it's $3 million, and it counts $3 million against you. It's as simple as that.
Yeah, and I kind of agree. And I would like that more for NFL team because now, again, take New Orleans, for example. How long do you think it's going to be before New Orleans can financially recover from this and even be at a financial point to where they're like, okay, now we're back over the cap. Now we have some draft picks. Now we can go sign big money free agents. It's going to be what, 2026, 2027 before we maybe see New Orleans back over in the positives to where they have an abundance of money. And then look at the Jaguars. Jaguars are always top 3 in the most cap space. And like Joe said, you always have the most cap. You spend big money on old B-rated, NFL free. Don't get me wrong, I love Marvin Jones. I thought that was going to be significantly better than what it was, and I was completely and totally wrong. That was a flipping bust. So it's you guys have all his money, and what are you doing with it? Nothing. You're not doing anything with it. Keeping it there.
What Jacksonville is now, they're a movie studio who keeps paying $30 million for Dan Aykroyd. I love Dan Aykroyd, but he ain't making $30 million movies anymore. He has a great legacy, but that just ain't the dude anymore. And that's Jacksonville.
They're kind of like that black leather couch for, the spicy movies. It's a nice couch. I don't want to buy it. I'm not paying $200 for that couch. I know what that couch has been through. It's not happening.
So let's talk about the NBA for a moment. Would you like to see no salary cap in the NBA? Because as we talked about this, the contracts are a little bit different where they're more a player makes this is what their cap is. Would you like to see that in the NBA?
It feels like it is that in the NBA, to be honest. There's no hard cap. There's no punishment. You can be in the red and you're totally fine, So
pay taxes, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then everyone's Lakers, yeah, we'll pay taxes, whatever. We were in California anyway. We'll just go for it. It doesn't even matter for them. So in the NBA, I don't think it makes a difference whether you go no, if you say officially no cap, because the way it's set up, if they feel this player is going to change the entire franchise, okay, I get a slap on the wrist and get a ring to my finger. I'm going to take it.
Yeah.
Would you feel comfortable if they did like a no cap, but you're only allowed to have, let's say, a percentage? Like no player can take up more than
like 20%,
28% of your total amount. So if the Lakers want to pay LeBron $50 million a season, he cannot count more than 28% against their total for players. Something like that is kind of a safeguard. Because that way we're not getting LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Giannis all on the same team. Like it's literally, if you're going to do it, you're going to suffer.
Wait, you don't want super team? Wait, no, because that's how LeBron James wins championships, is super team.
Oh my God, don't let pride hear you talk about like that. Oh my goodness.
Nobody ever wants to. Everybody's going to sit here and say, Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh wasn't a super team. Bull freaking crap.
No. I'm just talking about in Cleveland. That one in Cleveland there's nothing on that team.
True. I mean,
I've been real Antonian all night. I knew he'd get Rodgers. I knew he'd get LeBron. Just fishing, man, right off the dock.
Hey, I don't even talk about LeBron. I think this is the first time I've talked about LeBron in like weeks.
That's good because
when your team is under 500, you can't really talk about him. That's just.
No, that's Lakers aren't my team. It's everybody.
No. I'm just saying when LeBron's team is under 500, you talk about it. It's like.
But what would you think of that?
Yeah, I mean, kind of like you guys said, that's kind of already the case for what it is in the NBA. As far as taking over 20%. I mean, I could see it, but I mean, realistically, that's kind of what they already do now. I mean, that's part of the reason why, Kevin Durant, Giannis and LeBron aren't on the same team is because, again, kind of the same thing in the NFL. All these guys, they might be willing to take a little bit of a pay cut because, like, oh yeah, we're going to go get a championship. Like, this is going to happen. But I'm not going to go take a championship for, $500,000. Like, no, I'm still one of the better players. Like, I can go somewhere else, form like half a super team, and still be there in the same position you are. You're just not going to have me there. So, I mean, it's kind of like how it is now because, I mean, think about it. Literally before James Harden was traded, you had Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and James Harden all on the same team, all under the same cap. So, I feel like really the NBA is already kind of set up for that, to be honest with you. Now, I actually would take that idea and transfer that over to the NFL. And I say that so that way you don't have teams like the Saints that are going to be, cap struggling for 4 or 5 years. You don't have players, and again, it sucks for the players because I'm all about players getting paid because, again, this is not a long-term guaranteed thing. But that way you don't have, Patrick Mahomes eating like 33% of your cap. You don't have Aaron Rodgers eating up like 40%. You don't have Dak eating up like 40%. And it gives teams more of a chance to be successful and bring in decent players to be able to compete.
Yeah, I mean, part of the frustration is I got to interview a guy who does the salary cap for the Patriots. He started doing it in his own free time and is now he doesn't work for the team, but basically like people who work for the team get his advice on stuff. And he said like it can definitely be like mind numbing the way you have to understand everything because there's so many rules. The money doesn't equal to the cap space and this and that and all that. And it is really frustrating. I mean, there was this narrative, I think it was the final 4 teams. If you look at their cap hits or the money they were making, you had Patrick Mahomes, you had Matt Stafford, you had, Joe Burrow's on a rookie deal. So that doesn't matter. But like these playoff quarterbacks making all this money. But again, are those teams going to be successful long-term? I mean, right now we're going to see the Rams. The reason we're hearing about Aaron Donald possibly retiring is because he wants to be the highest paid player in football and by a lot. And guess what? When you have a guy like Stafford who makes a good amount of money and a guy like Ramsey and all this, it hamstrings you. It makes it hard to be competitive, which is why teams like the Steelers and the Colts and the Patriots were anomalies because they were successful for so long because The NFL, the modern NFL, is not designed to be that way. It wasn't like the Cowboys and Steelers of the 70s. It wasn't like the Packers of the 60s or the Browns of the 50s. Like now, you have to have, I mean, there's a reason, as much as I hate them, there's a reason that analytics have come into football so much, because you have to have an MIT degree to understand all of this stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, not only that, but I mean, think about it now. The modern NFL, you got to get at least one. You got to get one to be relevant. Look at Tampa Bay. They're like, we're going all in on Tom Brady. We're going to get at least one. That's all we got. If we get another one, cool. If not, we're getting at least one. Same
Rams,
with Los Angeles. Yeah, the Rams are a perfect example. Because think about like what the Steelers did, what the Colts did, what the Patriots did. Mm-hmm. You don't really trade a whole lot of picks. If you do, it's mainly like second and third round. You don't trade your first rounders. You draft really well. You have high expectation for your first rounders. Like, hey, these are going to be our starter guys. We're going to make them work. And then our second, third round guys, if your starter's cool, if not, you're probably just going to be a support role. But yeah, now it's not really built for long term. Look at the Colts right now. The Colts are built. They're still kind of doing that. They're still built for a long term. They still have a good offensive line. They still spend money actually pretty well in free agency. But what don't they have? They don't have a quarterback, because they do just well enough that they knocked themselves out of that quarterback competition, and now it's just a rotating carousel.
And that's why we need that Joe McDonnell NFL draft on NFL lottery board. That's exactly.
Yeah,
what.
Baby.
There we go. Tying it all back.
One question for you guys before I know we're finishing up here. Okay, you mentioned the Colts. The Colts are trying to be the Rams and the Buccaneers. So are the Denver Broncos, two teams in the AFC who feel that they have teams that are ready to compete but are missing that high-level quarterback to get them there. Of the Broncos and of the Colts, who do you think makes the biggest push for one of these superstar quarterbacks, whether it's Aaron Rodgers, whether it's Russell Wilson, whether it's Deshaun Watson, whether it's maybe Kyler Murray? Who do you think of those two teams, or is there another team that fits the bill of like, listen, we are 90% there, we just need to get over the hump?
Hey, Amon, I'll let you go first.
I think the Denver Broncos already started their push with their head coaching hire. If we are being honest, did Nathaniel Hackett get a job because he's a brilliant mind? He might have one. I don't know. And that's not the reason he got hired. He might eventually, you know what? He could be a great head coach someday, but he's not getting hired because they think he's going to be a great head coach. They hired him because they want Aaron Rodgers. They want to make the push for Aaron Rodgers. And with the news breaking today, I don't know if he's coming back or not. We'll see what happens. But again, I think that they made their push for him. I think the Colts are a little bit too sensible to then just throw everything they have at a quarterback. This is based off their history. I just don't think, yes, if they can get him for
Carson Wentz.
I know. But again, they didn't throw 3-4 first-round picks out the window, right? If to get Rodgers, to get Watson, that's what you're going to have to do, to throw 3-4 first-round picks. And based off their history, they're just not willing to do that. The Denver Broncos haven't had anybody successful after John Elway and between Peyton Manning. Between that, there's been nobody. Your best quarterback's been Jay Cutler. Outside of those two guys has been Jay Cutler. That's not a great place to be at, right? Tim Tebow has maybe your only other playoff win in the 2010s. It's not a great place to be at. So that for them, I think they're ready to make the push, and I think they might fall right back in that same facet of not being very good after the quarterback leaves. But with the head coaching hire, I think they're making the biggest push to go get Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, and I will say real quick, the only time Denver has ever drafted a successful franchise quarterback is if the Colts draft them first.
That's so true. Look at
so
that.
Realistically, Andrew Luck comes out of retirement. It's fine.
There's always a chance for Harbaugh then.
So to me, all honestly, even as like a Colts fan, I don't think Carson Wentz is bad, as much as I dislike Carson Wentz, because think about it. Can you really look at the Colts wide receiver room and tell me that's a great wide receiving core? You have a 32-year-old T.Y. Hilton, past his prime. He's not really been like that guy the last couple seasons. You have Michael Pittman, the dude that refuses to give number 11 to Carson Wentz because my number. You never wore that like your entire life, and now you decide that it's my number. You're dumb. Anyway. So to me, Denver has more of the pieces set up. Now, for Denver, though, like Amon said, You're going to have to trade a lot. I'm betting at least one offensive lineman because Green Bay's offensive line is not great. You're trading at least Jerry Jeudy or Cortland Sutton, one of the two, because Devontae's gone too. So they really don't have any wide receivers up in Green Bay. And like Amon said, is Denver prepared to go back into bottom feeder mediocrity when Aaron Rodgers leaves? And will Aaron Rodgers even take you there? Because you're going to probably the hardest division in the NFL if you do. And I would stop being a Colts fan if they do this. If they get Aaron Rodgers, you at least have an easier division. You possibly don't have to worry about Deshaun Watson. You don't have to worry. Well, you have to worry about going to Jacksonville. Do you really have to worry about Tennessee and Ryan Tannehill? No, just wait for him to throw a couple picks. It'll be fine. So, I mean, really, you're going to an easier division in the AFC South than you are the AFC West, where you have Herbert, you have Mahomes, you have Carr. You're going to be vying for like second, third place. Maybe first. Aaron Rodgers will take him anywhere.
No,
because he can't do it right now with just Devontae Adams.
Wait, did we finally discover that we found somebody that Tony hates as much as Aaron Rodgers? Is it Michael Pittman? He seems really upset about the number 11.
I don't. I just when I heard that, because it was like okay, Carson Wentz is going to get number 11, and then Michael Pittman's like, no, this is my number. I'm like, you never wore 11. Like Carson Wentz wore 11 like all of college, all of high school, all of his NFL career, and you're just like, no, I'm the second string wide receiver. I'm not giving it up. Who are you? Like, you just got here.
Tony's been watching too many Michael Pittman YouTube videos. That's all that's happening.
For real. I'm just like, I was kind of sitting here. I was like, watch Carson Wentz be like, no, I'm not throwing you the ball. I don't care if it's a wide open game-winning touchdown. I'm not throwing you the ball.
I'll throw it to the other team instead.
Exactly. Like hashtag Tennessee. Like, I'm just throwing it up. Whoever gets it, gets it. It's fine. But I really don't dislike. Well, I don't care for Michael. Like, I don't have anything against him. I just thought that was the stupidest reason to not give Wentz his number. Like to me, there's a point. Like, if you've been in the league for 4 or 5 years with the same number, and unless you're like Larry Fitzgerald and you've worn number 11 for like all of eternity, give him his damn number. Like look at Chris Godwin with number 12. He's like, well, this is the number I wear. It's even Tom Brady was like, I'll pick a new number, and Tampa Bay was like, no. That's you. That's how people know you. No. You're giving up number 12. Yeah, it's like Michael Pittman. You've been in 5 minutes. Let Carson Wentz have 11. If he leaves next year, take your 11 back. It's not even like you're number 1 in jersey sales. Like, just stop it.
You're not Justin Fields in Wisconsin.
Could you imagine?
It's not like that.
Could you imagine if Tampa Bay like literally made Tom change his company name from TB used to be 12? Like that would be pretty bad if they didn't let him get number 12.
No, well, wasn't it in a recent interview he said that he was like thinking about going to number 7 because he's like, yeah, I'm gonna go
chasing number 7.
Yeah, I'm chasing number 7. And I'm like, that'd have been kind of cool to see Tom in number 7. Like it would have been different. Like in 7,
I wouldn't have gotten used to it, man. I'm not used to seeing him in red or the Tampa Bay shade of red. The throwback New England Patriots jerseys red was nice, but this shade of red was not it.
You're like, no, or the gray, the gray of Tampa.
It just wasn't it, man. It wasn't it. The orange practice jersey is just not it. Just not doing it for me.
That's fair. I think Joe's having technical difficulties again, or he's really focused and not moving.
Or he thinks, man, I'm gonna shut up. You're not funny. I think that's what it is. I think he's just coming.
That, or maybe he's just so stunned about the Michael Pittman thing. He just doesn't. There we go. Now, yep, that was it. It was Michael.
You guys were saying something mean about me. I'm very upset. I don't know what it was, but I'm going to listen back.
We said that you had. We said that you just seemed like you were either very focused or you're having technical difficulties, or we like fried your brain about Michael Pittman. Yes. Just nobody liking Michael Pittman.
I'm having a Freddie moment. My internet is having a Freddie moment.
Well, it works out because that's actually all the time we got for the show. Again, thank you to Amon and Joe for coming on. As always, a blast. Of course, we always find out something new about each other. We pretty much know that, well, we found out that apparently I don't like Michael Pittman and that I can still roast Aaron Rodgers with the best of them. We also found out Joe's going to trademark a new lottery system for the NFL. I expect the paperwork there on Monday. And Amon is definitely going to be the curator for stopping, blood doping, across international seas as well. So, Amon's got his assignment. Joe's got his. Mine is to throat punch Michael Pittman for not giving up. Anyway, guys, thank you again. Tune in next week. We'll probably have another show. If we don't get canceled, it'll be fine. But again, thank you guys for tuning in. Hope y'all have a good night.
All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. All sports, all plays. 365, we making a place. We talking the game, get you through the days. We're high in the court, the dime in the lane. Variety, topics, living the same. All presentation, sports information. In the airways, taking the nation. All sport, all plays, like working your faces. Grace at the field, so tie the laces.